Hello, boys and girls. It is time for Writer's Workshop. So it's finally time to put everything together that we've learned about narratives and narrative writing. We are going to be doing our real deal narrative culminating task. And this task is going to take us a few days to finish, but we're just going to do one thing at a time. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to look at what our writing assignment is. Here's our writing prompt. It says, your assignment. Your class has decided to put together a book of stories about how people can learn about the past. Your book of stories will be read by parents, teachers, and other students in your school. Your teacher has assigned you to write a story about a trip to a natural history museum. Imagine that you and your classmates enter the museum and see many displays. Tell about what you and your classmates see and do at the museum. Tell about what you learn about the past. Your story should be several paragraphs long. Writers usually do research and add realistic details to the setting, characters, and plot in their story. Use the information from the sources you have read to write your story. Make sure your story includes a setting, gives information about the characters, and describes what happens. Remember to use words that describe. Your story should have a clear beginning, middle, and end. All right, so this is a lot of information. And when you get a writing task often, you're just going to have to figure out what is it asking you to actually write about. So I tried to highlight some of the important details here. And the most important thing here says your teacher has assigned you to write a story. So we know it's going to be a story. And we have to talk about you and your classmates going to a museum. And you have to tell about what you learned while you were there. And then finally, it has to be several paragraphs long. Well, now we know we can write an introduction paragraph, a body paragraph, and a conclusion. So we already have that checked. Now, we're going to do a little bit of research and we're going to read a source that will tell us a little bit about museums. And we're also going to do some fun activities where we get to explore and do a virtual field trip to an actual natural history museum. So that's going to allow us to do some research. And then we can use what we learned to add some realistic details to our story. And don't forget, our setting is already set for us. The setting is going to be at the Natural History Museum. Our characters are going to be you and your classmates, but the plot is really going to be up to you. What do you think the main problem or the main event would be if you went to an actual natural history museum? All right, so let's take a look and do a little bit of research. So in this source, and I'm actually going to zoom in because this is really small, but this is a source that was provided for us that we can read and maybe learn a little bit of information about natural history museums. So I'm going to go ahead and read this for us. Okay, this is called A Visit to a Natural History Museum. Now remember, this information will help you to generate ideas for when you have to go and do your writing. It says, visiting a natural history museum is a good way to learn about the past. Many cities and towns have one. There are many different things to learn. The museums have different parts. Dinosaur rooms. Dinosaur rooms have bones of animals that lived many years ago. People who studied them dug up the bones from under the ground. The bones are often made into whole skeletons. Some of the dinosaurs are huge. Pictures and scenes show the food that they ate. Some were meat eaters and some were plant eaters. Other scenes show ideas about how the dinosaur died off. One museum has built a big dinosaur model. They move and even make dinosaur noises. Gem rooms. Many museums have rooms where beautiful gems or stones can be seen. Some of the stones are diamonds. You can see how different stones grow inside the earth. Some stones have been cut into smaller pieces to make jewelry. One famous diamond is in a museum in Washington, D.C. It is called the Hope Diamond, and it's the world's biggest dark blue diamond. Native American rooms. Some museums have rooms that show how Native Americans lived many years ago. People can see how they cooked, made clothing, and played games. They can also see how they made tools and hunted. There are also different kinds of Native American houses. Traveling displays. Sometimes displays are taken to museums in different places. King Tut was a ruler of the Kingdom of Egypt many years ago. His tomb was discovered over 90 years ago. It has many wonderful things inside. Treasures of gold and jewels were found. The walls were painted with beautiful pictures. Today, a show of King Tut's treasure moved to museums in different cities. That way, many people can see them. A visit to a museum can take you back in time. You can learn many wonderful things about nature and history while having a good time. All right, you guys, in this source, we learned a lot about natural history museums and all the different kind of things that you can see, like dinosaur rooms, gem rooms, Native American rooms, and then traveling displays. Now, here we go. Oh, that's what we're getting to next. All right, now on your own today, you're going to do two different things to help you prepare for writing this narrative essay, this story about going on a trip to a natural history museum. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a virtual tour of a natural history museum. And when you go to your assignment, you are going to go into day one and you're going to go into this slide that says take a virtual tour. And you're going to click on each of these images. Each image will take you on a little tour. The first two are going to be video tours. And then the last one here actually is just like a 3D kind of looking virtual tour of this museum. And you can go anywhere you want on that virtual tour. But remember, you're doing the tours to get background information because this information is stuff that you want to use in your narrative story about you and your classmates going to the Natural History Museum. Once you take your virtual tour, you're going to come to the slide that looks like this. And this says Day 1 Writing Task. And you're going to brainstorm some ideas based on the information that you learned about natural history museums. Your assignment directions say, what are some possible problems that could occur while visiting the Natural History Museum? And you're going to list your narrative plot or problem ideas in this box below. So remember, and you can always go back, I forgot to show you this. This little home button is always going to take you back to that original assignment that tells you what your writing task is. And so it's always going to take you back here and you can remember do you have to write about? Because if you write about something else, you cannot get full credit for this assignment. So remember, you're writing a narrative story about going to the museum with your classmates. So going back to the assignment, I want you to just generate 5 different ideas about what could possibly happen in your story. What would be the main plot, like the main event or the main problem that could occur if you were going to a natural history museum with your classmates. All right, so those are the 2 things you need to do today. You're going to go back to take our virtual tour to get some background knowledge about museums, and then come over here to this slide and you're going to put in your 5 ideas of possible plots or problems that could occur in your narrative story. Every time you see this little stop sign right here, make sure that you stop there and you don't go into the next day's activity. So once you're done with this, you are good to go. All right, friends, let's go be writers.